Is it a ceasefire, a fragile truce, whatever it is it even holding? No one is laying down his arms, at least not yet, that's for sure. Here's what we have been hearing from the United States side about this rapidly changing situation with Iran.
With respect to the two-week ceasefire announced by President Trump last night, this is a victory for the United States of America that the president and our incredible military made happen.
President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. We control their fate, not the other way around. That's why they came to the table.
I actually think, and there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith, propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
That's what the Trump administration has been saying. So what is Iran saying? The Fars news agency, which is linked to the IRGC, the Iranian regime, said that after the ceasefire took effect, some oil tankers were allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. But then the same Iranian media agency later said Iran has halted all traffic in the strait. Why? Well, Iran says Israel violated the ceasefire. Middle East correspondent Zach Anders joins me from Tel Aviv, where it is 11:01 p.m. Zach.
Yeah, Greta, tonight Israel says they agreed to join the ceasefire with Iran, but Jerusalem says there will be no halt to the fighting against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Really the same exact statement that you just heard there from Vice President Vance. Israel has launched their largest wave of attacks across Lebanon since the war began. In Beirut, several high-rises have collapsed as a result of these Israeli strikes. Hundreds are injured, more than 700 at this point in the night. Dozens are reportedly killed, including ambulance and first responders that were on scene. Now, the Israeli military claims to have hit more than 100 targets in just 10 minutes. They really shifted focus to Beirut today, earlier in the afternoon. Now, Lebanese officials claim that these attacks came without warning. Often, the Israelis have issued evacuation orders for specific buildings they're about to target. It does not appear that they did so today. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, Iran has threatened to pull out of the talks entirely that are set for Saturday in Pakistan and break the ceasefire if Israel does not stop their campaign against Hezbollah. Now, President Trump has clarified this afternoon that the ceasefire agreement did not cover Lebanon, and Iran and Pakistani mediators, they insist otherwise. They are claiming that all parties agreed to the ceasefire, that it would include Israel halting their offensive on that northern front. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, released a statement this afternoon that claims they will give a, quote, regretful response to the evil aggressors in the region if aggressions against dear Lebanon are not immediately stopped. Now, we have also seen several Israeli leaders also turning their attention to Prime Minister Netanyahu, blasting him and the ceasefire as a disaster. They are blaming Prime Minister Netanyahu for abandoning the original Israeli war aims, which, depending on who you ask in Jerusalem, did include total regime change, a collapse of the Islamic regime in Iran. Now, leading opposition party leader Yair Lapid, he was also prime minister at one point. He says that the prime minister delivered the worst possible outcome, claiming that the regime in Iran was not defeated, rather that Israel here has suffered a total diplomatic defeat. And that is a message that we are also seeing representatives within Prime Minister Netanyahu's own coalition also share their same frustrations. Some of these ministers that are a part of Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet even are out here tonight saying that this deal should not have been taken, that the war aims against Iran have not been achieved. Now, the Prime Minister, in a press conference just about 2 hours ago, might be trying to open the door for those detractors to say, hey, this isn't exactly what is taking place here. He is calling this a temporary ceasefire. He stressed temporary. He says that this temporary ceasefire with Iran will not include Hezbollah. We will continue to strike them with all our might, the Prime Minister said in his press conference tonight. So, Greta, it has been remarkable to see really on both sides of the political spectrum here in Israel, a lot of frustrated Israeli leaders saying that this should not have taken place in the manner it did, that they feel the Islamic regime is still emboldened. We still had missile attacks last night, so their missile force is still at strength and capable of delivering those long-range ballistic missiles into Israel. But the thing to really watch for tonight is that Iran is saying they have resumed shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, targeting any of those oil tankers that try and transit, and they're saying they're going to break the ceasefire unless Israel stops their attacks against Hezbollah. It will be a tense situation for the next few hours, and imagine that at some point here, unless there's some kind of diplomatic progress, that Iran will resume their attacks. Greta?
Zach Anders, thank you. And today, President Trump had a special visitor at the White House. It was NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. It's no secret President Trump has been unhappy with NATO. Here's what Trump has said about NATO in the past, starting with Trump talking about NATO back in the 1980s.
If you look at the payments that we're making to NATO, they're totally disproportionate with everybody else's, and it's ridiculous.
We don't really need NATO in its current form. NATO is obsolete.
NATO was delinquent. They were not paying their bills. They were not paying. A lot of states, as we discussed, they were not paying what they should be paying.
NATO has done absolutely nothing.
NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us.
Former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and the recipient of the Civil Star for Gallantry in Combat, General Wesley Clark, joins me. Nice to see you, General. And the issue of NATO, we're one of the 12 founding members going back to 1949, and I appreciate that NATO did invoke Article 5 when we got attacked on 9/11. But putting that aside, what has NATO done for the United States? What's its value?
Well, NATO has provided stability for our greatest trading and investment partners. And it's the foundation for the economic renaissance of Europe after the Second World War. It's the foundation for the strength of America in its diplomacy after the end of the Cold War. We've had our European allies with us when we've tried to work in the Middle East, when we've tried to work in Asia, when we've been through the financial crisis. We work closely with them economically, financially, and militarily. But the foundation of it is a relationship in NATO. It's the strongest pledge one nation can give to another. So to say they haven't done anything is just to totally misunderstand the nature of the international community and the world we live in. Our prosperity is tightly linked to the success of stability in Europe.
Well, President Macron of France, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK, and other world leaders, including NATO General Secretaries Rutte and Stoltenberg before him, has said that Iran must never get a nuclear weapon. And when there have been instances, and since February 28th, where bases have been hit with way of American assets, even there was a British base in Cyprus being hit, NATO was nowhere to be found. Has NATO let the United States down?
I don't think so. I don't think we ever went to NATO and really asked for help. No, we did talk individually to countries. The Brits are out there. They're shooting down Iraqi drones in the Gulf whenever they come over. They're protecting their own bases. The French have deployed forces. The Germans are letting us use our bases, and so are the Italians. So we're getting a lot of support from individual NATO member countries. But if you want NATO to help, you have to go through a process. So you have to go to NATO, you have to get the ministers involved, you have to go through the NATO planning process. That's what we did for Kosovo. NATO nations helped us pretty much in Kosovo.
Am I wrong by suggesting? I mean, my information I read, I have no idea. I mean, in the area of fake news and AI and everything else, it's very difficult to be sure of anything. However, I did read that in the beginning of February 28th, for instance, the British wouldn't let us use our bases, so we had to fly further. We had to do riskier refueling. So it wasn't exactly like the British. I'm not talking about NATO, but the British weren't exactly throwing all their support behind us.
It's true, but we didn't actually go to the Brits and say, here's the plan, we want your help. We didn't do that. You can't do this with tweets. You can't do it afterwards. These nations are sovereign nations. They're democracies. They have their own parliaments, their own public opinion. They're not dictatorships. And so the leaders there have to respond to their public opinion.
So what do you make of this? Is that, I mean, again, it's what I hear, what I read, what I'm talking to people, is that the Strait of Hormuz is going to cripple everybody in terms of oil unless it's open. And I hear that the United States doesn't need that because we're more oil independent. Yet, should it not be some of these other countries getting more involved on the Strait of Hormuz to get Iran to open it up freely? I don't know if it's even open right now or not, because I've heard conflicting reports.
Oh, I think they should all could be involved in it, but I don't think you can expect Iran to simply open it as gratis. Iran has now the equivalent of a nuclear weapon. Anytime they want, they can shut the Strait of Hormuz. They can turn it against us because actually, Greta, the price of oil it's a global price. It's not just a U.S. price. So when you say, oh, we don't need their oil, that's true, but the prices are all linked because oil is fungible from one nation to another. So if the price of oil is $200 a barrel, you're not going to be able to go to the West Texas people and pick up a barrel for $80. Somebody else is going to get that $80 barrel and send it over there and make $120 out of it. And that's why there's a global market. And that's why Americans are going to pay $6, $7, $8 a gallon for gasoline if we allow Iran to hold us hostage through the Strait of Hormuz. So it's a mythology. Now, if we're going to go after Hormuz, if we're going to deal with where we are right now, we have to understand we're not in a ceasefire. We'd like to have a ceasefire. We'd like to have a peace agreement. This is talk, fight, talk, fight. And so the Iranians consider it still at war. They consider they've won this round. They consider they now have the greatest weapon they could ever want, which is to blackmail the world by closing the Strait of Hormuz. That's their success. They think they won. Now, if we turn our backs on our friends abroad, we're going to be very disappointed because what they believe, if we turn our backs, is Iran won. And we can't allow Iran to have a super weapon like closing the Strait of Hormuz. It's a violation of international law, as well as what it does economically. And what that tells me is our military still has some work to do. Now, can we do it right away? I don't know. But, we set an artificial time limit on this air campaign. My air campaign against a much weaker opponent in 1999 went for 11 weeks. We artificially said, maybe we're listening to Bibi Netanyahu, oh, this will be over as soon as we take out the leadership, it'll all collapse. But it hasn't collapsed. They have a mosaic command structure. So this is a real struggle for the United States of America here. And for us to go forward with it, we have to understand this is not over. It's not over for the Iranians. It's not over for us until the straits are free, open, and clear, just like President Trump said in his acceptance last night.
General Wesley Clark, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.
Coming up, markets just closed, and you will not believe what happened on Wall Street. That one, the record continues.
Hi, I'm Charlotte McBride. I love working at Newsmax because every day we bring you honest reporting with real conversations, no spin. We're not telling you how to think. We're just giving you the facts and letting you decide what's best for you and your family.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Another lost spring break? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools are ultra durable for any climate. Can be installed in weeks, not months. And have hundreds of designs, sizes, and colors to choose from. For 70 years, Latham Pool has remained the gold standard in bringing backyard dreams to life. Our pools are easy to care for, won't stain or crack, and never require costly resurfacing. And with flexible financing options, your dream is within reach. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. It's never too early to start planning for a lifetime of memories. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Most roofing companies only make money one way, by selling you a new roof. But what if your roof isn't worn out, just dried out? And with just a little love, you could put off an expensive roof replacement for up to 15 years, at a fraction of the cost of a new roof. Roofmax is a scientifically engineered restoration formula that brings your shingle life back to new. Scan the code and get a free spring roof tune-up with your Roofmax restoration.
At the top of the hour, markets closed. The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all closed up for the day. This is not surprising because before the markets even opened this morning, Dow futures were up more than 1,000 points. This massive jump comes after the news last night after yesterday's market close that the United States, Israel, and Iran had agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. So what else reacted to this news? Well, earlier this week, the price of a barrel of Brent crude oil was more than $100, and today a barrel of Brent crude oil is $4 cheaper at about $96 a barrel. And as for gas prices here in the United States, today, according to AAA, the national average is $4.16. That is up 2 cents from yesterday's national average of $4.14. Financial markets analyst and author of the book Planet Ponzi, Mitch Feierstein, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. Well, the market went wild after the news last night about this ceasefire, and I don't know exactly where we are today. But hypothetically, if it doesn't hold, do we see the same sort of swing back by tomorrow or the next day?
I think, Greta, we're seeing a lot of volatility in the markets, and we should have a lot of volatility because we're event-driven. My concern is that we had a rally, and I'm not really exactly sure if it was anything more than short covering. I'm very concerned about a lot of the structural aspects of the stock market right now. Our valuations are a little bit high, and with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz for the amount of time that it was closed, we've seen extensive damage to the global supply chains, and that's going to impact the markets because even one freight, a cargo, a ship going from the Strait to China or to Asia takes about 40 days to complete its journey. So that we haven't seen the full impact of this yet, and it's still going to play out. We have seen a significant drop in oil prices from $115 to where we are right now, about $96, which is very positive. And we saw a decline today of over 30 cents in wholesale gasoline prices, which is going to help consumers at the pump. However, I'm not as optimistic for stocks. As I told you last time we spoke, I'm very optimistic about the bond market because I think that the Federal Reserve is going to have to cut the discount rate by 75 to 100 basis points this year. Lower interest rates will be better for the economy, and the reason for that is there are systemic issues with the credit funds out there. Another downgrade by Blue Owl, which has a $36 billion fund, was rated negative by Moody's this afternoon. So I think that there's a lot of problems in that market. It's a $3 trillion plus market, and I think that there's we're going to see some issues with that it's going to force the Fed.
What about gold? I mean, where's gold in all this?
Gold's up about close to 10% for the year. So gold, if you look at the three indices, you look at the Dow, it's down for the year, so is the S&P, and so is the NASDAQ. Gold is up close to 9%. Silver is a really good performer, and I've accumulated a bit of that. Silver and platinum are the two that people should be looking at, too. Precious metals are currencies, contrary to what everybody says, and I think it's a great opportunity to get in and buy some or continue to get a little bit more. And the bonds, I still like the bonds. Bonds are tradable. You can buy the 10-year note now at 4.29, and when the interest rates go down, you can sell it and make a profit. And it's a lot safer than the stock market, and the volatility is not as high, or the risk.
Boy, there's just something so troubling. You see pictures of people getting hit by missiles and the market going up or going down and whatever. You see that it's so intertwined, and all the heartache and everything else. And what a nightmare. Mitch Feierstein, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
And in 6 days, Pam Bondi, the now former Attorney General, was supposed to appear on Capitol Hill to testify pursuant to a committee subpoena. The topic, the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein case. But today we have learned Bondi will not appear. Deputy Attorney General Patrick Davis sent a letter to Oversight Chair James Comer. It says, quote, because Ms. Bondi no longer can testify in her official capacity as Attorney General, the department's position is that the subpoena no longer obligates her to appear on April 14. We kindly ask that you confirm that the subpoena is withdrawn, end quote. A spokesperson for the Oversight Committee confirms Bondi will not appear. Last week, President Trump removed Bondi as Attorney General. Bondi says she will be joining the private sector for an unspecified job. Bondi's number two, Todd Blanche, is now serving as acting Attorney General. Coming up, a Long Island architect accused of murdering at least 7 women and more. That when the record continues.
Support your long-term health with Fatty 15. The science-backed, award-winning Pure C15 supplement.
Fatty 15 is reversing aging at the cellular level. And I know it's doing what I want it to do, which is prove longevity and wellness.
Discover more at fatty15.com.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care. The human brain is truly incredible. It's a complex network of 100 billion neurons that create cognitive functions surpassing that of supercomputers. Our brain controls our thoughts, our emotions, and our movements. Prevagen contains apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish, and is designed specifically for the brain to help keep it amazing, so that we can continue to live our best life. Prevagen, for your brain.
If your dog struggles with stiff joints, low energy, messy poops, or an itchy coat, the cause might be sitting in your dog's food bowl right now. Kibble. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete, gently air-dried, packed with real canine superfoods to help your dog unlock puppy-like energy, smoother digestion, healthier joints, shinier coats, and more. Thousands have already made the switch. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys experience ED. Guys, connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED, then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
The United States, Israel, and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, and I don't even know if I would call it a ceasefire, but all parties have presented since very different versions of the terms, and there have already been reports of violations of the deal. Today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said this regarding the ceasefire.
They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. And the idea that President Trump would ever accept an Iranian wish list as a deal is completely absurd. The president will only make a deal that serves in the best interests of the United States of America. And he as a negotiating team will focus on this effort over the next 2 weeks, so long as the Strait of Hormuz remains open with no limitations or delays.
Meanwhile, yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance was in Budapest, Hungary. The vice president made an appearance at Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban's rally. Since 2010, Orban has been the Prime Minister of Hungary and is now running for re-election. While in Hungary, VP Vance said this about the ceasefire deal. Here's the vice president earlier today.
The United States has certain demands and certain things that we want. the Iranians have things they can get out of the negotiation. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. The president's talked about sanctions relief. The president's talked about economic partnerships and things like that. That's not going to happen unless the Iranians make a firm commitment to stop anything close to the development of a nuclear weapon. And frankly, the president has all the cards here. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
And it is now confirmed that on Saturday, Vice President Vance will be leading the United States negotiating team talks in Islamabad between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Former White House Chief of Staff in the first Trump administration, Mark Meadows, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And, we in the media talk a lot about this, and we pull every single word anybody says, but this is enormously serious and enormously complicated, and we're dealing with people who are terrible people who want to kill us and who have lied and dragged this out. So I don't know. I don't know what to think, but my heart bleeds for everybody who is suffering from this.
Well, obviously, it's a tense time. And Greta, you've covered this a number of times, not just with Iran, but with other international powers. And the negotiations are always difficult, but it's exceedingly so with Iran. But I think we can look at two different factors that would give us hope. Not only was the president very serious in committing really a barrage of attacks last night at 8 p.m. and after, had they not made a meaningful difference. But the other thing that we can read into it is the fact that Vice President Vance is going to the negotiations. Typically, you don't send that high level of an individual from an administration to do that. It's supposed to send a sign of not only importance, one, but the other is that you don't want it to be an embarrassing moment for the Vice President of the United States. That being said, any ceasefire, the first 72 hours is key, and we've already heard reports of some of it being violated and back and forth. But there is a narrative, Greta, where the Iranian really media will put out one thing and what's happening on the ground is different. So I would say that we need to make sure our intel is verifying what these reports are saying. And if the Strait of Hormuz is open and remains open, I think that's a good sign.
Well, I have two thoughts. One that sticks with me is that Steve Witkoff was on this show, and I finally have the correct quote in front of me. He said that that Iran bragged to them that they already had 460 kilograms of 60 enriched uranium, and that it was 10 days away from 90% weapons grades at 10 days, and that's 11 bombs worth of material. So bingo, that's what they told us. That's what we're operating on. The other thing in terms of negotiations, I think, and this sounds just terrible, I'm probably getting in trouble for saying this, but I think one of the reasons you want to send the vice president is that with the Iranians, I wouldn't send a woman. They don't like women too much, and I don't know if I'd send two Jewish men either. They don't like Jewish men very much. So, it sounds terrible, but maybe it doesn't mean they don't like women. Maybe this is sort of, a good new approach with these people who have been terrible to deal with.
Yeah, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are both excellent negotiators, and if there's a deal there to be. Yeah, but your point, obviously it's a valid point. But I will say this, that bringing Vice President Vance in certainly to augment those activities will not undermine that. Greta, I was with you when you had that interview with Mr. Witkoff, and what he stated needs to be heard loud and clear for all Americans, because it's not just the peaceful use of nuclear fissile material. It's actually the fact that they are enriching, and the only reason you would enrich to that kind of level is for a nuclear weapon. And we've already seen firsthand that their neighbors are not safe, and that includes Europe and more broadly U.S. interests. So I do think that Vice President Vance, in your opening there, said something that's real clear. The Iranians have a real choice right now, whether they want to be a country of prosperity and peace or a country that, quite frankly, is going backwards in terms of the rest of the Middle East. And it could be a very lucrative deal for them. But it's only if they're willing to abandon this nuclear weapons capability. And if they want it for peaceful purposes, let's sell it to them. Let's give it to them in the interim and sell it to them over the long term in terms of if they need it for a nuclear reactor. That's an easy thing for them to accept if we're to take them at face value that they want it for peaceful purposes.
And of course, it's always easy to negotiate with honest brokers, but they have not been honest brokers. I mean, they've been hiding all this stuff for years.
I agree.
So anyway,
yeah.
Mark Meadows, always nice to see you. Thank you, sir.
Great to be with you, Greta. Take care. God bless.
Thank you. Today, Long Island architect Rex Heuermann pleaded guilty to the murder of 7 women. He also admitted to the killing of an 8th victim, Karen Vergata. Here's part of what happened in court.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the manner in which your attorneys represented you in this case?
Yes, I am.
I must say that the attorneys on both sides of this case have been excellent, unbelievable lawyers. Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a charge, that is the same as if you had gone to trial and been found guilty of that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving a number of very important rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just horrible, isn't it? Over 17 years, the women, many of them sex workers, were strangled by the 62-year-old architect. Heuermann's ex-wife spoke to reporters after the guilty plea. Here is what she said.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them at this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
Heuermann's lawyer, Michael Brown, also spoke outside the Suffolk County Courthouse.
Several of his concerns, he had many, about why he didn't want to go to trial and plead guilty. He certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal of going to trial, and coupled with saving his family that ordeal.
Brown added that his client has maintained that there are no more victims other than the 8. Heuermann faces life in prison. His sentencing will be Wednesday, June 17th. Coming up, the U.S. obviously has nuclear weapons. Who else does? Find out when the record continues.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support with clinically studied grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone.
Super Beets works. I swear by it, and I know you're going to love it too.
Try Super Beets today at human.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
During the Omaha Steaks Spring Savings Event, prices are going down. Save up to 50% with entrees about $5 per serving. Order now to get 8 burgers free. This spring, watch the prices fall at omahasteaks.com/TV.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags are actually made overseas.
If there's one thing that deserves to be made here in America, it should start with the American flag.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
Join our pledge to make the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Life with ear ringing sounded like a constant train whistle I couldn't escape. Then I started taking lipoflavonoid. With 60 years of clinical experience, it's the #1 doctor-recommended brand for ear ringing, and now I'm finally free. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
How many countries have nuclear weapons? How many did you guess? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. The answer is 8 countries and 1 unconfirmed. The 8 countries that have confirmed they have nuclear weapons are on your screen. In 1945, the United States confirmed it has a nuclear weapon. 1949, Russia confirmed. 1952, the United Kingdom confirmed. 1960, France. 1964, China confirmed. 1974, India confirmed. 1998, Pakistan confirmed. And in 2006, North Korea confirmed it has nuclear weapons. Those 8 we know for sure have nuclear weapons. And beginning about 1979, many people began speculating that Israel has nuclear weapons as well, but Israel has never confirmed that it has them. The interesting thing about this list is Pakistan's name on the list. Pakistan is the nation helping mediate the very fragile 2-week ceasefire deal involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. Of course, the critical issue is that Iran not have nuclear weapons. Yesterday, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif proposed in-person peace talks among all parties to begin in his country as soon as Friday. And as I mentioned earlier this hour, it is confirmed that on Saturday, Vice President Vance will be leading the U.S. negotiating team talks in Islamabad among the United States, Israel, and Iran. Former United States Ambassador to Pakistan, David Hale, joins me. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you.
You surprised to see Pakistan as the mediator?
A little bit, although the truth is Pakistan is right there in the neighborhood and has a lot at stake. They're highly dependent on energy out of through the Strait of Hormuz. They have a strong relationship with Saudi Arabia. They're seeking a stronger relationship with the United States. But the most intriguing thing about this, to my mind, is their relationship with China. They would not be doing this without a green light from China. So it's interesting to dig down deeper on what China's expecting out of this.
Pakistan, though, has had a little dirty history with A.Q. Khan, who's considered the father of the nuclear weapon in Pakistan, because he's the one who was like the Walmart of nuclear technology with North Korea. He's the reason, at least I'm told, that North Korea has nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's according to the history books, certainly. And Pakistan has a nuclear weapon, and that is a problem between us and them. But I don't think this is really about nuclear diplomacy. I think it's more about Pakistan trying to use its good offices to see if they can come up with a solution between us and Iran.
You have a rich history in Lebanon. We see pictures today of Israel hitting Lebanon again because of Hezbollah. What is sort of the state of the Lebanese government and its support for Hezbollah, or not lack thereof?
Yeah, Hezbollah, of course, has been basically an Iranian proxy, an Iranian creation that has rooted itself in the Shia community in South Lebanon very deeply. So it's part of the political equation in Lebanon as well as being an Iranian tool. But we've seen increasingly, particularly as the Israelis have decimated the Hezbollah leadership, it is pretty much run by the IRGC. And we saw that when they entered this war again, this chapter of the war after Ali Khamenei's assassination. The Lebanese government has been allowed finally, because of the IDF operations, to exercise greater independence and freedom from Iran, but not completely so. And they have struggled to disarm Hezbollah completely.
I thought there was a time in recent history where Lebanon basically said enough is enough with Hezbollah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you took an opinion poll, even among the Shia up until recently, that would be the case. The problem is that the more aggressive the Israelis get, the more sympathy there is for Hezbollah, unfortunately. And the state is seen as on the sidelines and irrelevant to the powered equation in Lebanon. So I think a primary goal for American statecraft and for Israel should be to look at the long-term sort of enlightened self-interest that we may have in helping the state become the dominant player in Lebanon.
Well, nobody can predict the future. Iran's already saying that the deal has been broken, the ceasefire. You have any sort of thoughts on dealing with Iran?
Well, I think that it was wise of the president to accept this initiative. There's nothing to be lost by seeing if we can leverage the tremendous gains the U.S. military has made vis-a-vis Iran. I mean, secondly, if we were able to reopen the straits and put more pressure on Iran to do so, the better. One of the key question marks, though, is what's going to happen in Lebanon, because the Israelis are not going to let off. They don't believe the state can disarm Hezbollah, and they're not going to just allow Hezbollah to continue to fire.
Why does Iran care so much with much of its leadership eliminated? Obviously, they've got many layers of leadership that take over, but Hezbollah is an expense to them at this point. Because they don't have a lot. Iran doesn't have a lot of money to pass around, to sprinkle around to the terrorist groups. So why does Iran today, right now, care so much about Hezbollah?
Well, they've shown even at times of great economic desperation that they prefer to fund groups like Hezbollah than meet the needs of their own people, and that's because it provides leverage. I mean, this is a regime that is basically terrorist piracy. And so it's the control they have over the straits, it's the influence they have over proxy groups to create mayhem in the neighborhood that gives them the power to stay in place.
But Hezbollah seems so weak. They've still got a lot of weapons, but in terms of Israel, it's so powerful right now, and it seems more like a pest and annoyance, but for the fact that they kill. But I mean, more so, for both Israel and for Iran, when the big issue is Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and its nuclear weapon.
Right. The main battle is in Iran. If the United States is able to prevail in its goal of neutralizing Iran's ability to project power, Lebanon will ultimately fall into place. So the main story is there. But for Israel, if you've got thousands of people living in the north of Israel under fire, they have a need to deal with their problems. If they can't rely on the state of Lebanon to deal with it, they want to deal with it on their own. The problem is the pattern of history over 40 years has shown that dealing with it on their own ends up being a gift to Hezbollah.
Former United States Ambassador to Pakistan, David Hale. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's right. We have a midterm alert. Former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in Congress will soon be occupied, and again, by a Republican. Clay Fuller, a district attorney, beat Democrat Sean Harris, a retired Army general. The margin might seem large. Fuller won by 12 points, but that margin doesn't look that large when you look back at prior elections in this congressional district. 2 years ago, in 2024, Greene beat her Democratic opponent by 29 points. And Trump beat then Vice President Kamala Harris in that district by 37 points. Former Congresswoman Greene gave her thoughts on last night's election for her vacated seat, and it was a slap at her former pal, President Trump. Greene posted on X, Georgia 14 was never in danger of flipping blue, but the results speak for themselves. Trump flipping MAGA from America first to America last, covering up for the Epstein files and betraying key campaign promises of no more foreign wars, has been the best help for the Democrats. Sad, end quote. Meanwhile, yesterday, Democratic candidate Chris Taylor won Wisconsin's Supreme Court race by a 20-point landslide victory. Her win bolsters the liberal majority on Wisconsin's highest court. Pundits are wondering, are these numbers in the midterms warnings for Republicans? By the way, here's some trivia for you. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has 7 justices, and since 2020, 6 of those 7 justices have been women. Coming up, our outrage of the day from California, where some people are making a bad situation even worse. That one, the record continues.
What do you think?
Even though they're growing up, they still need your guidance.
You like it?
Yeah, I like it. That's why last year, Instagram launched teen accounts, defaulting all teens into automatic protections for who can contact them and the content they can see. And we'll continue adding new safeguards. Instagram teen accounts with automatic protections.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 5-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
It's time for our outrage of the day. It's been more than a year since the devastating fires in Pacific Palisades, California. 31 people died, 13,000 homes and buildings were destroyed. Residents are still trying to recover. Many homes are still rubble and ashes, and of course they lost everything. They lost personal items like photographs, everything. And now people are dealing with this, graffiti. Some of what has been painted includes political and controversial messages. Some messages say, "Free Palestine" and "Eat the rich." And it's not just homes that were vandalized. Street signs, trash cans, and even trees have been spray painted. A resident whose home burned down and then was graffitied told local news outlet KTTV that it is, quote, "salt in the wounds." While another said, quote, "it's just beating people who are already down," end quote. Last month, vandals also went after burned properties in Malibu. Police arrested 2 people, and according to investigators, the suspects were found with more than 50 cans of spray paint. Now to space. It's already day 8 of the Artemis II mission. 2 days remain. 4 astronauts on board the Integrity are making their way back to Earth. Their historic journey has made them the human beings who have traveled the farthest from Earth, but they are also setting other records as they make their way home. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen joins me with the latest. James.
Greta, good to be with you. U.S. officials say the USS John P. Murtha, an amphibious transport dock ship, has left port at Naval Base San Diego and begun heading toward the recovery site in the Pacific Ocean, where the astronauts are scheduled to splash down on Friday. We have a live view of the mission from cameras mounted atop the solar arrays of Orion. That's the capsule that carried the astronauts on their unprecedented swing around the far side of the moon this week. At this moment, the crew is about 100,000 miles from home and has been focusing on the testing of gear that's designed to regulate their blood pressure during re-entry into Earth's gravity. When a small course correction was required, the crew made their first use, all of 15 seconds long, of the ship's thruster burn. The last 24 to 36 hours have allowed the crew to take more extraordinary photographs of the lunar surface from a distance of about 4,000 miles, as well as pictures of the moon and the Earth together. For 54 minutes, the crew was treated to a solar eclipse where the moon completely blocked out the sun. And the Orion crew, who you'll see at screen left, notched another historic first when they placed a phone call, clearly of the long-distance variety, to their NASA buddies presently aboard the International Space Station. This was the first time that American astronauts had company in space, and accordingly, the first call of its kind. And it reunited Christina Koch of Artemis II with her quote-unquote astro sister, Jessica Meir, who's aboard the ISS. Back in 2019, they conducted the first all-female spacewalk together.
Always hoped we would be in space again together, but I never thought it would be like this. It's amazing. Congratulations to you on being commander, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your trip in space.
Thank you so much, Christina. I totally share all the same sentiments, and I'm so happy that we are back in space together, even if we are, a few miles apart. We like to joke about that up here, too, because everyone's talking about the records of the distance, and we ran to the far end of the space station when you guys were on the other side so that we could claim we were the furthest away from you in that moment.
NASA advises that the astronauts kicked off day 8 of their flight to the strains of Under Pressure, which I know you will recall as the 1981 hit by Queen and David Bowie.
Oh, indeed. It's just an extraordinary story. I mean, what fabulous news, and everyone's excited about it. I mean, I can't believe, though, that 2 days they're going to be back home.
Yeah, they're set to splash down in the Pacific around 8:06 Eastern Time Friday evening, somewhere in the vicinity of San Diego, but it's a zone of about 550 square miles.
So they could be rocking and rolling in the water for some time.
For a bit.
For a bit, anyway. James Rosen, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, law enforcement accused of behaving badly. One was even accused of kidnapping. You might know the name of one of the law enforcement members who's got some troubles. Who is it? That one, the record continues.
Hey, I'm Carl Higbee from Newsmax. Look, I'm unapologetically pro-American, and honestly, this is the one place that lets me call it how it is. I'm not holding back. I'll give it to you straight every single night.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands or your back or your hips. I'm here to tell you that joint pain doesn't have to be a life sentence. Hi, I'm John Walsh. For 40 years, I've been chasing down the culprits. And now I'm ready to throw the book at joint and muscle pain. That's why there's Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement. So I tried it, and it changed my life. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
Last week, I walked 6 blocks. I was so proud of myself. I ordered Omega XL, and now I have more energy than I ever had. It's been the best thing that I did because it relieves a lot of pain. Everything changed for the best. I can go out, I can hang out with my sisters, I can go anywhere, clean my house, do whatever I can and want to do. Now it's let's go, baby. This product is the best thing. You will remember what did it to you, and it was Omega XL.
That's the truth, the facts, and the hope that Omega XL can bring you. Case closed.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. When you buy 1 bottle, we'll give you a 2nd bottle of Omega XL free. Order now and we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. That's more than 50% off a value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. So buy 1 bottle now and get 2 free bottles with this offer. Call or go online right now.
If you're living with joint or muscle pain caused by inflammation, try Omega XL and see the difference it can make in your life.
Buy 1, get 2 free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $49.95. Act now.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools can be installed in weeks. Our pools won't stain or crack and never require costly resurfacing. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
Appliances break down,
home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered.
Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-714-4212 or visit FAHW.com.
Still no word about Savannah Guthrie's missing mother, but now trouble for the Arizona sheriff in charge of the investigation. Remember Sheriff Chris Nanos? He is the Pima County Sheriff. 67 days after Nancy Guthrie was last seen, there are still no suspects, but that's not the trouble I'm talking about. An incident report from 2024 alleges Sheriff Nanos brought a loaded handgun through an airport security. The report says Nanos did not declare his handgun. TSA officers found it in his bag and questioned him. After speaking with the sheriff, TSA concluded that he was not hiding it on purpose. He was not charged, but he did miss his flight. Fast forward to today, Sheriff Nanos is also facing some management problems closer to home. According to KOLD 13 News in Tucson, last month a deputy for Nanos was arrested. Why? Well, the deputy allegedly kidnapped a female prisoner. The deputy was bringing the prisoner to jail when he allegedly solicited sex from her. The deputy was obviously fired. All of this comes as the Pima County Board of Supervisors is calling on Sheriff Nanos to testify about his work history and conduct. It was recently revealed that the sheriff lied on his resume. Nanos had claimed to work for the El Paso Police Department until 1984, but he's actually forced to resign from the El Paso Police Department 2 years earlier in 1982 due to allegations linked to gambling and insubordination. And there's more. Recent investigation revealed Nanos during the 2024 election abused his office for political gain. Nanos has been called to testify by April 21st. His spokesperson says Nanos plans to comply and testify, but if he does not, he could be removed from office. Now to an unsolved mystery. We still do not know who stole the Kit Kat truck in Europe. Last month, 12 tons of Kit Kats were stolen, so now Nestle is using the incident as a marketing moment. Kit Kat trucks in Canada were seen with a security convoy. Kit Kat Canada posted this video on Instagram showing security guards in a convoy protecting the truck. Kit Kat also posted this video showing consumers how to protect their chocolate. It shows locked boxes as one option. Estimates say Kit Kat lost up to $1 million from the heist. Thank you for watching, but I do want to have you, keep your eyes open for Kit Kats because we're always looking to investigate crime here at Newsmax on the record. If you see a Kit Kat bar that you think might be proceeds from the crime, do call Nestle's because it's extremely important, apparently. Okay, I'm going to get in trouble for that. I know it. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is next. Stay with Newsmax.